Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. We are doing something new today. I am going to address the number one question I get all the time on my videos. How did we conceive our kids as quickly as we did? For those of you who have recently joined my channel during my fitness journey, postpartum fitness, etc., just know that I originally developed or started my channel to document my trying to conceive journey and then my pregnancy and labor and delivery and that kind of thing for my second child. Didn't do it for my first. But it has been years since I have tried to conceive, and I still get this one same question, which is, how did we do it? A lot of people who write that comment and find my channel in general do so because I used tags such as advanced maternal age and geriatric pregnancy or fertility in your 30s and 40s, because when we were trying to conceive our second child, I was already in my mid 30s. So I did a lot of research, took specific supplements for specific reasons. So I'm just going to put it all here in one video so you guys know what we did, what worked for us. As a recap, we conceived our first child when I was 32 on our first time trying. For our son, it took us, I conceived him just before I turned 35. I was 34 and a half or something. And it took us 3 cycles to conceive him, 2 of which we had chemical pregnancies. So, which is very, very early miscarriages. So technically, I guess if you want to get technical, we conceived all 3 times that we tried with him, but we lost 2 of them. So let's dive into the number one thing that my husband and I had that worked in our favor to conceive as quickly as I did, and that is sheer dumb luck. You know, fertility is not an easy thing. You don't just get pregnant. A lot of timing and biology and all different kind of variables play into it. I know it might seem like people just randomly get pregnant, but honestly, it's so much luck, especially if you are not doing all the things to get pregnant. And we were not doing all the things. In fact, I was told by my OBGYN in the US to expect that our conception journey, my conception journey, would take up to 2 years, because for 8 years of my 20s, from when I was 21 to 29, I had cervical dysplasia. I have had so many surgeries on my cervix. I have had cryotherapy. I have had LEEP procedures. I have had all kinds of stuff because I had a very stubborn case of abnormal cervical dysplasia. So it never turned into cancer, but at the worst point, it was precancerous. So I had a lot of scar tissue and a lot of stuff done to my cervix. And apparently that can really impede conception. So with all of that said, I had been only tracking my period on the Clue app, just assuming that since my cycles were approximately 26 to 27 days long, that my fertile window was the average fertile window, that I was ovulating around the average time. I was not getting into the specifics of any of that. I just assumed that whatever my app told me, I was just fitting within those average ranges. I did know at the time that any supplement you take, you need to be taking it for at least 90 days for it to affect the egg that you're ovulating. So if you start taking a prenatal now, and then 2 weeks later you try to conceive, the egg that you're ovulating that month or the next month or even the next month is not going to have developed under the circumstances that a prenatal or any supplement you're taking would have affected it, at least when it comes to egg quality. So I knew ahead of time that I wanted to be taking prenatal vitamins at least 3 months before this month that we were going to try to conceive. So I had been off of birth control for several years up until that point, and I started taking just the regular whole foods prenatal vitamin 3 months before we tried to conceive that 1 month. So I did have that going for me. And then we just like had sex, like that's just all we did. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believed that when we conceived our daughter in that cycle, it was pure luck, because I have no other explanation. The stars aligned. So with that said, when I was 34 and a half and we decided we wanted to try to conceive our second child, I thought to myself, number one, I'm in my mid-30s, so I'm like old AF, right? And then number two, lightning does not strike twice. So I really needed to do some prep work on my body. I started to take my prenatal vitamin, and we knew we didn't want to start trying to conceive until several months later. So at the end of 2017 was when I started doing preconception planning, because we knew that at least 3 to 4 months in the future was when we would actually start trying to conceive. So I started taking a folate-based prenatal. And the reason you want to take a folate-based prenatal and not folic acid is because there is a genetic mutation called like the MTHFR gene. If you're into the TTC community, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically, it's a situation where your body just cannot utilize folic acid, which is the synthetic version of methylfolate. And it can really mess up your ability to conceive. So why not just take a prenatal that has the natural form, the methylfolate, right? I started taking 830 milligrams of prenatal omega-3 DHA. I use the Nordic Naturals brand. So in addition to that, as part of my preconception planning, I got really into the scientific details of my cycle. I really got to know my body for many, many cycles, okay? I downloaded the Fertility Friend app. I got a basal body thermometer that measures your body temperature to the 100th decimal. And I started doing OPKs. So OPKs are Ovulation Predictor Kits. They're just a pee stick that you pee on right around the time that you think you're ovulating. So you really have to know your cycle lengths. And sometimes it's a matter of like peeing on an OPK twice a day from like the day your period starts to whenever it is you get a positive result, because sometimes people can ovulate sooner or later than what is normal for their cycle length. But anyway, I did a lot of OPK tracking for many, many cycles, and I found out that I just was very lucky in having a regular cycle. So what an OPK does is you pee on it and it will tell you if your luteinizing hormone in your urine is peaking. And what that means is your body is hormonally getting ready to ovulate. Once you get a positive result on an OPK, it generally means that you will be ovulating within 24 to 48 hours. This is assuming you don't have PCOS. People who suffer from that can have multiple peaks of LH in their system, and it also does not mean, and this is for everyone, having a positive OPK does not mean you are actually ovulating. It just means your body is hormonally trying to stimulate ovulation. So in addition to OPKs, which kind of helps you narrow down your fertile window, you also do basal body temping. Now people take these thermometers, and some people temp in their mouth, some people temp in their armpit. I personally tempt vaginally, which is you take a very specifically designated basal body thermometer and you just put the very tip of it inside your hoo-ha. And the reason you do that is because rectal and vaginal temperatures are going to be the closest, most accurate reading of your core body temperature that you can get. You have to do it in the morning and at the same time. It's very important, like same time of the morning every single day. And you need to have had at least a 4-hour stretch of deep sleep without getting up to pee, without like thrashing around, insomnia. Like it needs to be under specific conditions to get your body temperature to as exact as possible. Okay. So you do this every morning. In the Fertility Friend app, you take your temperature readings every day and you plug it into the app, and then it will chart for you. And then you'll have a dip on the day you ovulate and then a spike the day after, okay? And that's because when you ovulate, you immediately release a lot of progesterone, and progesterone increases your body temperature. So then if you use OPKs, you can kind of figure out, all right, I think my body's about to ovulate. Now is the time to be getting it on, you know, with your partner. And then afterwards you can see, okay, I have definitely ovulated, and your body temperatures will sustain a higher temperature post-ovulation than they were pre-ovulation until either your period is about to come, and in which case your temperatures will drop off, or you will find out you're pregnant and they will continue on because your progesterone levels will stay stable throughout your pregnancy. Okay, that was a lot of information. I hope you guys are still with me. All of this to say, I did OPKs and I basal body temped for several cycles before we tried to conceive and then into my conception journey. This was just to make sure I knew exactly what was going on with my body. I knew exactly when we needed to get it on, you know, and yeah, I just knew the data from my body. I also did a couple other things. I get ovulation pains, so I used that as a secondary way of indicating, okay, I've probably ovulated when I did. And I tracked cervical mucus, which, ew, right? That's the grossest word ever, mucus. But it is a vital sign, you know, like our bodies produce, female bodies produce different fluids down there throughout our cycle for different reasons. And when we are fertile, the cervical mucus changes to a clear egg white consistency, and that is to help semen, like sperm, get as quickly up into the uterine cavity as possible when you are ovulating. But once that period of time is over, the cervical mucus changes in consistency to really, try to prevent bacteria and things like that from getting into your body, right? So by tracking cervical mucus, that's one way to know when you're fertile. It's also a way to figure out if you might be having fertility issues. So going into step 3 is that the third thing we did to conceive was that I knew from tracking my body and knowing my body closely that I had suboptimal features. So one of them was the fact that I hardly produced any egg white, fertile cervical mucus. Now they say that you don't have to have gobs of it coming out of your body for it to be there. Like it's still very likely there next to your cervix. You just don't have an excess of it that it would actually purge from your system. But I took supplements to optimize the amount of fertile cervical fluid I had there just to help the process, like help the swimmers, nourish the swimmers, help them get up there, right? So the first thing I did was I ate 1 raw garlic clove every single day. I did it at night so that I didn't like offend anyone with the flavor or the smell, from day 1 of my cycle till the day I confirmed ovulation. So that in and of itself, raw garlic, incredibly increased my cervical fluid, like incredibly. But in addition to that, every day of every cycle, every day, I took 2,000 milligrams of Evening Primrose Oil orally. And that is also said to help increase the amount of fertile cervical fluid that you produce. I also made sure to just drink enough water. Second thing I did to try to optimize an issue I had was I have extremely light periods. I'm talking like I spot on day 1, I have a light to medium flow day 2, I spot day 3, and that's it. I bleed very little. So I worried that that could perhaps mean that I have a very thin uterine lining, which can create problems when you're trying to implant an egg after fertilization. So the things I took just to try to optimize my uterine lining and make it as fluffy and hospitable as possible for a fertilized egg is I took 750 milligrams of red raspberry leaf extract in tablet form. I also just casually drank red raspberry leaf tea. And And I took that up until, let's see, I took those things up until 5 days past ovulation. And the reason being is that red raspberry leaf can sometimes cause uterine contractions. And so even if it's just the tiniest little tiny contractions or cramps, when you're trying to implant an eggo, you kind of don't want to mess up with that. So I would take that up until 5 days past ovulation, because fertilized eggs implant at 6 days past ovulation or later. Okay. I also took 500 milligrams daily of L-Arginine, which is an amino acid that is said to help promote blood circulation, adequate blood flow, that kind of thing. So again, trying to support a healthy uterine lining. And the other thing I did was I ate the core of a pineapple. So you cut a pineapple up in slices. You can eat the whole thing, but specifically the core, from 1 day after ovulation to 5 days after ovulation every cycle. And you do this because the core of pineapple has a high concentration of an enzyme called Bromelian, and that is said to help with implantation. And again, because it can cause uterine contractions, so you don't want to take it after 5 DPO, because by 6 DPO or later, that's when your egg is going to try to implant, and you just don't want to create cramping that could dislodge the egg, right? So yeah, those are the 3 things I did to help support my uterine lining. The third thing I did to try to optimize my situation is that, again, I was old. I'm not young. I'm not just like this young, healthy person. My eggs are aging, and with age comes, just those small little breakdowns in quality, which can make a huge difference. So I started taking supplements that I researched all of this. Okay, so do your own research too, but these are the things that I researched. I started taking supplements that are known to increase egg quality. So the first of which is I took 55 UG. I don't know if that just means international units, but the units are UG of selenium in conjunction with 400 milligrams of vitamin E. And for the record, I took all of these in addition to just my regular prenatal. I took an additional 1,000 units of vitamin D3. I took 2,000 milligrams of grapeseed extract, not grapefruit seed extract, but grapeseed extract. It's a very powerful antioxidant. I also took 400 milligrams of Ubiquinol. Here's the thing about Ubiquinol. If you're younger than 30, you can get away with taking CoQ10, which is Ubiquinone. So it's said to significantly impact the quality of your eggs. When you're 30 or younger, you take CoQ10, which is Ubiquinone, you take it orally, and your body then has to convert it to Ubiquinol, which is the bioavailable form of the enzyme that your body can then use as an antioxidant. Once you get to 30, 35 and older, your body no longer is able to convert Ubiquinone to Ubiquinol efficiently. So you could be just powering down the CoQ10 and it might not be doing much, if anything, because you're not converting it, you're not metabolizing it properly in your body. So it's extremely expensive, Ubiquinol, but if you really want to be serious about getting the benefits and you're in your mid-30s or older, just take Ubiquinol, okay? So I took 400 milligrams of that daily. Took my folate prenatal. I was taking probiotics also throughout all of this. I liked the Ultimate Flora Critical Care 50 billion. Oh, it's by the company Renew Life. I love it. It's a really good probiotic. So I was taking that daily also. So I took all of those up until and throughout my conception journey. When we had the chemical pregnancy on our first cycle of trying, and then especially on our second cycle of trying, because that one was very legit. This one, I don't know. I saw a very faint line, but I'm not sure. But this one was for sure a miscarriage. After our second cycle of trying, I doubled my L-Arginine dosage to 1,000 milligrams per day. and I started taking yellow maca root powder. I would dissolve 1 teaspoon of it into just a little bit of water and I'd slosh it down. After taking those, then we successfully conceived our son. So maybe they had an impact, maybe not, I don't know. But maca root powder is one of those things where it's an adaptogen. It just kind of nourishes your adrenals and just kind of optimizes them, and it's said to be good in your fertility journey, just because it helps to optimize your hormones and that kind of thing. Those were the things I took. When it comes to my husband, I put him on a regimen of antioxidants that just help sperm quality. I had no reason to believe he had poor sperm quality, and P.S. he's 5 years younger than me, so like age wasn't even an issue. But I had him also on the same amount of selenium and vitamin E. I also put him on the maca root. He also took the garlic clove every night, the same time I did. He took the same amount of grapeseed extract, and he also was taking just a general man multivitamin. The fourth thing we did was we used Preseed. Preseed is a fertility-friendly lube. Not all lubes are fertility-friendly. Some of them are very toxic or can like damage the man's sperm. But Preseed, and I think there's another one called Conceive Plus, like the formula makes it so that it's a lube that helps to facilitate the sperm to move up, but also it helps to nourish them too. So it tries to mimic natural cervical fluid. So we used that. And then on the back burner, the things that I was going to try out if we didn't conceive successfully on that third cycle when we conceived my son, was that I was considering taking a low dose baby aspirin. I believe the dose is 75 milligrams, but don't quote me. Just, this is something you're gonna have to research on your own. Baby aspirin, it's just a very low dose of aspirin. Aspirin is a blood thinner. So if you perhaps are prone to blood clots that can kill off an egg that has just implanted or impede the blood flow to the egg as it's trying to establish that placental connection, maybe baby aspirin is something you want to take. There is also a cough syrup, I think it's Robitussin in the US, and one of its active ingredients is guaifenesin. I'm going to put it up here on the screen because I actually don't know what it is off the top of my head. But again, that's a mucus loosener. So like when you take Mucinex and you're coughing up all that phlegm, it's because it loosens up mucus. It will help you with cervical fluid, like fertile cervical mucus. And it can also help a man with his sperm. I don't know if it's that it just creates a little more fluid or something. I don't know. Do your own research. But it was on my back burner if we didn't conceive that cycle, that maybe that's something I would be willing to try. Another thing that I had heavily researched and had bought all the things and was going to do was castor oil packs. Again, look it up. I don't remember the exact procedure, but basically like you soak a flannel thing in castor oil, you place it on your abdomen, you cover your abdomen with saran wrap, and then put like a heating pad over it. And essentially the castor oil will then be able to permeate your skin barrier, and it just helps promote a healthy blood flow supply in your uterus, like your uterine cavity. That was the other thing I had on my back burner, which I did not do. But those are the things we did, okay? I tracked my cycles. I got to know my body extremely well, like down to the cervical fluid. And I started optimizing areas that I recognized were perhaps issues. I did what I could to increase my egg quality, and then I just put sperm quality enhancers into my husband's body just for the sake of doing it. We used Preseed to, again, help facilitate the transfer of as much swimmers as possible up the track, and we were just freaking lucky. Okay? There are a wide degree of variables that can cause fertility issues, from sperm count to egg quality to ovarian egg reserve. Then you have like genetic incompatibilities. You have women who have the MTHFR gene. I was extremely lucky. I cannot tell you how this didn't become an issue, but I have a lot of scar tissue on my cervix. And not only did it not impede conception, but it also did not cause any issue in any of my labors. So very, very lucky, just dumb luck. But that's my answer to all of your guys' questions of what we did to try to conceive. And I also want to just put this out there because when I watch videos trying to help me with areas I'm struggling in, and people are like, oh, it's so easy, this is all I did, and whatever. Fertility was easy for us, okay? Pregnancy was extremely easy for me. My labors and deliveries were extremely easy for me. I won the lottery when it comes to conceiving and pregnancy and birth. But I will tell you guys that karma made sure that the playing field was leveled out with my breastfeeding journeys and postpartum. My kids are 4.5 and 2.5, and I am still suffering from the effects of postpartum. My mood still has not stabilized. My hormones are still not stabilized. And P.S., my kids, both of them, are such horrible sleepers that my son, who is 27 months old, is only just now getting down to waking up once a night. Up until the point that he was 25 months old, he was still waking up 5 to 7 times a night at times. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, it's sunshine and rainbows and I'm so lucky and look at everything is great for me. I had my good times and I had my bad times. Postpartum is the reason why I'm not having any more than 2 kids. Done. I literally will not survive another postpartum period. So this video is super long. I'm going to cut it out. If you have any other questions, please let me know. And I'm happy to answer them or direct you to another video where I go into any of these things in more detail because it's there, way in the archives of my channel. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.